Ready.
Okay, I'll let you hear Mitch's voice in 10 seconds.
Station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Welcome back. Yes, it is the morning show here on ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in to this day's wonderful day ahead. As our good friend over there always says in Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you very much. National Let's Laugh Day, National Certified Nurses Day, National Chocolate Caramel Day, National Poultry Day, National Backyard Day. Of these, you got Mr. Jesse Sanchez over there just waiting at the seams, wondering which one is he going to pick, right? Jesse, which one are you going to pick for today?
Let's go with certified nurses because we don't give enough love to them.
Okay, yeah, that's appropriate. Although that would sound weird if you were a married man, or dating man, nurses love, get it. Certified nurses dedicate their entire careers to helping others and often work long, hard hours. The day honors and recognizes them and their significant achievements. Their advanced skills require continuing education, recertification, and continued knowledge of ever-changing technology. As certified nurses balance needs and patient care. And, when we think about our nurses, boy, do we think of what? Staying safe. Ambulatory care certification, though, is one of the fields that you might be thinking about when it comes to furthering your career. Clinical nurse specialist certification, informatics certification, medical surgical certification, nurse practitioner specialty certification, pediatric nursing certification, psychiatric nursing certification. All really, I think, pretty good ideas, at least for the next 3 to 4 years, for sure. I feel that we're going to have like a lot of shortages coming up around the corner. I don't know about you, Jesse. What do you think?
Shortages on nurses?
Mm-hmm.
I hope not. I know a lot of them don't want to go back because of the way some of them have been treated during this little COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for them, but I just want them to know that, you know what? A lot of us do care.
Yeah, that's the best way to see it. And I remember thinking about certain different professions, and I remember having friends that were nurses, and you could travel anywhere in the world and always have a job, right? You're like 100% in demand. So I always admire, before coronavirus, I always remember thinking, wow, I mean, some would make like $50, $80 an hour just by helping out like telemedicine, right? So it's a really good career I see your face going, wait, what?
Yeah, when you said 50, $60 an hour, I'm like, I'm in the wrong job.
Exactly. So it's one of those forever jobs for sure. I appreciate nurses everywhere. I think if you've ever had to be at the ER, or if you get like suffer like, oh man, a spider bite and or a snake bite, you definitely appreciate the ER, right? So don't get one of those. Let's see. Angela is tuning in over there. Says, good morning, TGIF. I know, right? Thank goodness. Stephanie Reed says, hello, happy editing this glorious sunshine day for today's awesome busy day ahead. So much positivity in the room. I love it. Let's see. Viviana is saying, good morning, everyone here. Awesome. Very good to hear. And there you go. So look, no matter what's happening in the day, I always ask Jesse, what's happening at the top of the hour, every hour when it comes to our news? Any big news over there?
A lot of it's all violent stuff. You probably already read it in the news, all the hate against Asians and whatnot. People are being attacked on the streets. I'm just like, can we all just get along, really?
Oh yeah, exactly. A lot of questions there, right? A lot of questions. And we're talking about the victims in the Georgia spa shootings, right? Also, let's see, I see a story here about the 8 people that were killed in the shootings at 3 separate spas. Again, still information circulating. Of course, the 6 Asian women were gunned down in the 3 separate shootings at spas in the Atlanta area. The nation and the victims' families are in mourning. Much remains unknown about the 8 lives lost. Now, the 4 killed in the first shooting in Cherokee County was identified by the sheriff's office recently. The spa owner, who was a recent University of Georgia graduate who was survived by her daughter, Jan, mom to an 8-month-old girl, was at the spa for a day with her husband who survived the shooting. Michaels, a Michigan native, had lived in the Atlanta area for more than 25 years, where he owned a security system installation business. That's according to the Associated Press. Brother John Michaels said, from what I understand, he was at the spa that day doing some work for them. Paul Michaels had been considering opening his own spa. He said he was a good, hardworking man who would do what he could do to help people. LCS Hernandez Ortiz, 30 of Ackworth, was shot and injured at Young's Asian Massage and was the sole survivor. Now, the Cherokee County slayings, is what they're calling it, were followed by shootings at 2 Atlanta spas. The Atlanta victims also were identified. Grant was a single mother who dedicated her whole life to providing for my brother and I. One of her sons, Randy Park, said, and we're talking about Hyun J. Grant, wrote on a GoFundMe page. He says, "It is only my brother and I in the United States. The rest of my family is in South Korea." He said, quote, "She was one of my best friends, the strongest influence on who we are today." That's a difficult story to carry there. It says, "Losing her has put a new lens on my eyes on the amount of hate that exists in our world. As much as I want to grieve and process the reality that she's gone, I have a younger brother to take care of and matters to resolve as a result of this tragedy." Now, President Joe Biden on Thursday did order flags to be flown at half staff in honor of the victims until a couple of days from now. The killings, of course, coming amid a rise in anti-Asian American and Pacific Islander hate crimes, were largely a targeted attack driven by personal grievance. That's according to a source briefed on the probe. The sheriffs over at the Cherokee County said Wednesday that the 21-year-old suspect told investigators that he blames the massage parlors for providing an outlet for his, quote, addiction to sex. And he told investigators the crimes were not racially motivated. Now, the source said no concrete evidence has yet emerged to support the idea that the locations and victims were targeted because of their ethnicity, but investigators are actively trying to determine what, if anything, the individual may have said, written, or thought about these particular women. Atlanta Police Deputy Chief Charles Hampton Jr. said at a news conference, "We are looking at everything to make sure that we discover and determine what the motive of our homicides were." Look, a lot of questions on this. I think it's important to note that, especially for the families of the slain ones, you got to remember again that there's certain situations, one of which, what's a child doing in one of the settings, right? And sometimes from some of these massage parlors, I mean, they're legitimate massages, right? I mean, certain ones may not be actually, and I don't know the situation with this particular situation, but to hit up that many and to do that type of like targeted killing. One happened at 5. That was the first shooting, 5 p.m. 4 people killed there. Then at 5:47 a.m. Went to the second place, 3 people killed there. And then another one minutes later, one person killed there at 8:30. No, at 8:30 there was another one, a suspect arrested around the 93-mile marker. So look, that this 8 dead and 3 shootings, that's just it. People wonder, at the end of the day, why would you go off and do that for addiction? That's something that it's odd, it's weird, and it's obviously what's going on in this person's mentality, right? So I feel bad for the families, especially the families that have said certain things. And, I do say, especially to those wondering, where is it safe? Because I'll be honest, I've several times, I actually talked to a good friend. I says, man, I need like a foot massage. I need a back massage. They have a lot of places that, you never know. Right. And now I'm like, wait, do I want to get a massage or not on my back? And some of them, you actually can keep your clothes on. Right. And you can get a full massage on your back and nothing even happen. Then there's others that I hear there are situations, but nobody deserves to be shot like that, right? So, love it or hate it or whatever you think happened there. I don't know. It's just, um, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. But you in social media probably have some comments there, and let's see what you're saying. Viviana says unnecessarily loving. I'm sorry, unnecessarily losing loved ones. Asians are not violent, and they should be respected as well as all other races. Yes, very sure. And let's see, TCOJCWPR broadcast says, "Good morning. It's me, Myra, on my church page. Mine won't work." Okay. Well, good to see you, Maria. Good to see you. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the morning show. Katja Wunderland, also from Switzerland. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be right back with more right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Don't let insurance companies make decisions for you. Go to Pass Auto Center in Banning, your one-stop repair facility with full collision repair, auto maintenance, service, and an authorized smog center. You'll also find a full-service used car lot to fit every budget with the right vehicle for you. Trade-ins are accepted and they pay cash for your car. Pass Auto Center at 2609 West Ramsey in Banning, just off the I-10 freeway between Sunset and 22nd. Call 951-849-7878.
Hi, I'm Frederick Penny of Penny & Associates Injury Lawyers. I bet you're tired of hearing lawyer commercials, so just relax and listen to music for a few seconds. When you or a family member has been injured, call 800-616-4LAW or see us at PennyandAssociates.com. See, that wasn't so bad.
Your health truly is the greatest gift. At U-Theory, quality of life is at the heart of every product we make. From farm to shelf, we travel the world to source the purest, most efficacious, and clinically studied ingredients to create science-backed supplements that support beauty, emotional, digestive, and physical well-being. All U-Theory products are manufactured at our Southern California facility, ensuring the highest quality standards every step of the way. As a family-owned company, we celebrate the power of human potential with a mission to inspire wellness in all. Try U-Theory Immune Plus Daily Wellness, 100% daily values of vitamin C, D3, and zinc. Go beyond the you of today and catch the you of tomorrow. U-Theory.
Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions now has Pack Your Meds. That's right, just add water. You order 5 or more prescriptions from Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions, and they will pack your meds for you in AM/PM marked packs. No more sitting down and counting and dropping them on the floor. You remember, it's not fun. I didn't like it. So now they'll do it for you. Safe, sealed, and dated. So call Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions at 951-845-8252.
There's more to the water you drink than you think. It's structure that matters the most to your body. So healthy is clean and pure and mineralized, but processed has lost the structure essential to water. It comes right back with the golden ratio. Your glassware is all it takes, so get it right. You'll be sharper by day and sleep better at night. GoldenRatioProducts.com.
I guess it is the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. Joining our live audience there, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope TV, LinkedIn Live, and wherever you find us. Alexa, don't forget, just listen to KMET 1490 AM. It's super simple right there. And lots of questions today, which I'm super excited about. Our next guest coming up around the corner. And we're going to be joined by a very interesting highlighted book, which I can almost tell you right now, you're definitely going to want to check out. And it's one of the situations that we sometimes talk about whenever we talk about war. Is war worth it? Is war a situation that you want to find yourself in? And I think we all kind of agree at the end of the day, we don't want war. But sometimes we often don't think about the repercussions of current wars, civil wars, those that are warring in certain countries. What do you do if you're in the middle of one, especially if you're just purely innocent, right? And I mean like completely pure of heart. Now, Jesse, just out of question, do you think that those that go to war are wanting to cause pain and suffering, or that they're trying to save people from pain and suffering? Just what would you say?
Honestly, in my heart, I want to believe that they're trying to end suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say that, that throughout the decades and throughout time, when people go to serve, they serve to what? Help people out. Yeah. And when they want to help people out, they obviously think, they go to war, they serve their country, and they try to do, what they feel is right, for each and everybody. Recently, I was approached by a particular individual, which was just trying to help out, honestly, somebody that he felt had a very important message, which actually had a very important story. And our next guest, which we'll be getting ready for just around the corner, the book is Only Cry for the Living. Now, this is an interesting story. And the reason why is this is by Holly McKay, who's going to be joining us around the corner. We're going to be talking about, something that I think a lot of us have kind of been forgetting. Okay. And we've been forgetting again. I mean, when you talk about ISIS, you think, well, why are we talking about ISIS, right? Why are we talking about, war, about something that has happened or happens in certain areas? Because I think sometimes people get a little jaded, right? But I'm gonna show the public something that I think we sometimes need to remember, and I think that these kids need to be thought of in our own memory, okay? Because no matter what is happening in life, children are sometimes stuck in the middle, and they don't ask to be stuck in the middle. And I'm showing a scene which happens to be, if you follow her on Twitter, this picture, which actually has a headline. Let me kind of pull up the headline so you understand why I'm showing these particular pictures. And you can follow her at Hollies McKay, HOLLIES McKay. And she says, "My boys, thank you. Help BCRF." Okay, which is dedicated to healing the wounds of war of Syrian children by providing life-changing surgical care. And Shriners Hospitals, which is there for children specializing in pediatric orthopedics, burn care, spinal cord injury, rehabilitation, and cleft lip palates. And it says, for giving these beautiful Syrians caught in the crossfire of war another lease on life. All right. This is the picture that these kids posed for the public. And I think this is an important picture for all of us to see, because this is the result of certain wars in certain countries, some of which sometimes we think, oh, no harm, no foul. But when certain people walk away, you go, well, what is left? And then the question is, did we do the right thing by the people, or did we do the wrong thing by the people? I think that's the end of the day, the question, right? So anybody that seeks out harm, seeks out pain, seeks out injury, I don't think that's the right thing to do in the end, right? Now, I'm all for defending, but what's going on? So, our next guest, which I'm really excited to have, we're going to see if we can get some more time with her, more than the average. Only Cry for the Living doesn't exactly sound what it sounds like, but Holly's going to make sense for us around the corner. And I'm looking forward to this interview because it's about the children. It's about the people suffering. It's about the people that sometimes we think, oh, we're going to complain about face masks. There are wars happening around the world right now, and wars that we've come out of, and we just kind of walk away and we go, oh, okay, well, we're good right here. Some say, well, I'm not caught in the crossfire. Why should I care? That's the worst type of mentality to think about. All right. Think about the kids, think about the children. And if you're listening on the radio, Jesse, I don't know how to describe the scene that I showed just a moment ago, but I feel like these children, at least, are trying to find the happiness in their life as much as possible. There's another one I don't even want to show. I don't think the child wanted it out there, but her nose is gone, Jesse.
Yes, it's a very difficult picture, and it hit you right in the heart. It's just like once you look at it, you're like, how could something like this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're going throughout your day and you got to ask yourself, how bad do I have it? You should really ask yourself, what can I do maybe to help if I can at all, especially these young children. All right, so we're going to talk about that around the corner. Super excited about that because this is a very much needed subject in this day and age. And we're going to talk to her around the corner. Only cry for the living. We'll be talking about that around the corner. We'll be right back right after this. Stay tuned.
Who is the Atua Man? Can you imagine exploring spiritual consciousness through an exotic action adventure story? The Atua Man is masterfully illuminated in this self-discovery novel by John Stevenson. Dive into the page-turning epic hero's journey, weaving together high action with spiritual revelation. Join the Atua Man and his colorful cohorts as they travel through the majestic Hawaii, the hidden mysteries of Polynesia, and the intrigue, starting with the mysterious healing that breeds chaos in London. This journey guides us through the trials of living in the material world, arriving into enlightened consciousness, perhaps glimpse into the fabric of creation. How is the Atua Man affected by the global healing ministry surrounding him? How does he navigate the complexities of love, forgiveness, life and death, wealth and power? Find out in John Stevenson's TheAtuaMan.com, Apple Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
My mom is a breast cancer survivor. The United Breast Cancer Foundation saved her life. Their free breast cancer exam caught the cancer early, and that saved her life. But now the foundation needs your help so they can continue offering free or low-cost breast screening exams, saving more women's lives. Help them by donating your car, whether it's running or not. They'll provide fast, free 24-hour pickup, and you receive a charitable tax deduction, plus the great feeling you'll get knowing your donated car is going to help save more lives. Just call 800-781-0965 to set the wheels in motion. They take cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs, running or not. Call 800-781-0965. The United Breast Cancer Foundation needs your help, and your donation could literally save women's lives, helping them catch breast cancer early, like they did with my mom. Donate today. 800-781-0965. That's 800-781-0965.
The Beljanski Foundation offers you the scientific approach to healing used successfully by Francois Mitterrand, the former president of France. The Beljanski Foundation offers you non-toxic, scientifically supported methods to regain your health. Visit the Beljanski Foundation website, www.beljanski.org. You'll be glad you did. That's www.beljanski.org. The Beljanski Foundation. The information is essential. The Beljanski Foundation. www.beljanski.org. The Beljanski Method, now in America. www.beljanski.org.
That's right. It's the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. Joining our live stream audience there, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope TV, and LinkedIn. Glad to have you with us. Again, a lot of questions on this particular subject. War, right? Is it the right thing to do? Is it not? Do you have to go? Are you going to go? And sometimes people forget the aftermath of certain said wars, right? Joining us right now is the author, Holly McKay. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Holly.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. Look, the moment this information came out, I immediately says, oh, for sure, we got to talk about this. Now, your book, the description, Only Cry. First of all, the title. How did the title of the book come out? Because it's very interesting. I'll let you state it.
I don't want to give away too much, but there was, and I write about this in the book, but there was a particular time where I was in a city called Talifa, which was occupied by ISIS, and this was soon after ISIS had been run out of the city. And we found that there were some mass graves, and I was with a group of a Mosul Civil Defense Unit whose job it is to go around the area and retrieve the dead. And so I was with them as they were digging up dozens of bodies from a sewage that had been used as I guess it was in a sewage that had been in ISIS jail, and then they had a mass execution and buried the bodies. And obviously afterwards, I was sort of standing by myself, and a little boy in the neighborhood who lived there had been watching the whole incident. And, I was trying to sort of protect him, I guess, from seeing that. But then I realized that it was a very normal thing for a lot of these young children to be witnessing. And he was sort of the one comforting me. And that was one of the phrases that he used when I was a little upset. So it definitely has a deep meaning.
Well, and we always talk about sometimes the cost of war, going to war, and then very rarely at the end of it, the aftermath of war. And those that are left behind and or bruised, I referred people to your Twitter, and I hope you don't mind. I know these kids post for certain pictures, and I had to give them a quick little shout out. I don't know their correct names, but I see it on your Twitter, Hollies McKay, which I believe you have a link to your book, which is good if they follow you. And of course, you're a journalist, writer, and you've talked about foreign affairs and human rights. But I want to go to these children really quick. The aftermath of certain burn victims. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I'm fortunate enough for the past, I think, about 6 years to be involved with a terrific organization based in Southern California, and it's called Help VCRF and Burnt Children Relief Foundation, and it's run by a couple of Syrians who are amazing, and they bring children from Syria that have been severely burned, and we're talking 90% 4-degree burns to their bodies, and there's absolutely no medical help. Often the medical help that they do receive ends up harming them even more because they take the good skin, and then when we finally can get them decent help, it makes things a lot more complicated. But these children are most extraordinary. So they come in from Syria just on temporary visas, and Shriners in Texas is a great partner of ours, and they help to do a lot of the surgeries, and the foundation helps to kind of keep them all together, and the living and the cost in the school. And they're just so special. These children are so grateful to be here, to get this sort of life-saving help that they just would not get. And it really paints this idea of just innocent victims of war. And when I talk to these children, it's one day they're sitting in their living room and they're playing with their toys, and the next day maybe half their family is gone, and they no longer recognize who they are. And it's heartbreaking, but their strength and resilience is just incredible. And one of the young girls I spoke to, Manal, she said she wouldn't go back to her pre-existing sort of life before the injury, because she thinks that it happened for a reason. It happened to try to tell other people that they can get through hardships as well. So these are young children that are just giving me oodles of wisdom, and it's phenomenal.
Well, and look, obviously, and I've seen some of the pictures where you're very, very, very present with each and every one of them. I gotta ask, the day in the life of one who has had to come to terms with feeling. I mean, I sometimes think of certain burn victims, and I think of situations where burn victims are here, even in the United States, but usually due to a fire or a really careless individual or a person that set somebody on fire on purpose. And I almost kind of wonder at the same way, why is this still allowed to happen around the world, especially in certain areas? And I'm sorry, I'm looking at an article that you posted recently, how the beheading of children happens as young as a 12-year-old son who was killed close to where she was hiding her other children. One mother told the agency she had to watch a 12-year-old son beheaded. What's the current situation?
The current situation is, and that was actually Mozambique, that situation. So that sort of seems to be a foothold where ISIS is gaining ground. There, in terms of Iraq and Syria, which is where I spent the majority of my time covering it, they have lost their territory. So the U.S. and its partners and the Iraqis and the Syrian forces there all managed to successfully win back the majority of that territory that they were holding, but they're still very much a presence. So there are still sleeper cells everywhere, especially on that Iraq-Syria border. And every day, people are still dying from car bombs, from suicide attacks, from shootings, and all inflicted by the ISIS fighters. So it's still definitely, for the people living there, it's still a threat, even though it no longer really makes those flashy news headlines in the United States anymore. It's still a big issue. And also the problem is that now that it's not in the front news, the funding has dried up. So the UN and other aid organizations that were there and were getting donations to support the people in these camps, they're no longer getting it. So it's really even a worse situation in terms of humanitarian problems now than perhaps it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, again, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Holly S. McKay, who is the author and writer of Only Cry for the Living, Memos from Inside the ISIS Battlefield. Obviously, of the different stories that are being featured in here, I got to ask, was there any one that was very difficult to read and or republish in this book?
There were a few. I guess one thing that I would always point to is some of the accounts of sexual violence and the Yazidi women and girls that I spoke to who had been held captive often for many years by these ISIS fighters and sort of sold at markets and passed around. And what was remarkable to me was it was really the first time a group of women, especially in this conservative society, had come out to break this taboo of silence and speak out and say, we're the survivors here. We aren't the perpetrators, and really wanted to make a difference in terms of bringing sexual awareness in war to the limelight. And to me, that was extraordinary, but it's also extremely difficult to sit there and to listen to these stories and kind of feel really helpless that all I can do as an individual is be something of a vessel and hope that people care and read it. But I can't take away the pain. I'm not a doctor. And so those things are things that I personally grapple with. But just sort of the strength and the hope that these women had in sharing their stories was amazing, but just brutal that this happened. And it's continuing to happen. There are still thousands of Yazidis that are still missing under ISIS. And, it chills me to think what they might be going through right now and sort of the attention that's no longer placed on it.
Well, and I'm glad you're bringing that up, because sometimes we think, and I say to Jesse, I say, it's funny, we complain about a face mask, and I say, if you were stuck in a different part of the world and or born in a different part of the world, what would your life look like? Can you describe kind of that situation, especially for these young kids who, look, I feel in some ways, sometimes even us, we get spoiled quite a lot.
Oh, totally.
Can you talk about that when you go there and then you come here and then you go there again? Because you put yourself a lot in kind of what I would call kind of harm's way a lot.
Yeah, I always found it to be, it's difficult making that transition. And it definitely takes time. When I come back from a trip, definitely a few weeks of decompression is needed. And there's a certain guilt that I have where I know that I get to leave. At any situation, at any point in time, I have the passport to leave. And I feel very in debt to these people that they have to stay there. They have to live through this. And that is a difficult situation for me to be in. But what is remarkable to me is that they're so welcoming, and they're so, they look at you coming in to, potentially dangerous situation. And to them, that is remarkable, because they feel often that they'll never see justice for what was done to them. And they know that no one's ever going to be tried, probably never in the International Criminal Court or anywhere else. But to have their story told is a sense of justice to them. To know that someone out there is reading it and at least acknowledging the pain that they went through and the ordeal that they went through, that is a semblance of justice to them. And so, that's why I do this work, and that's why I feel it's really important that if you can do this work and to do it, because otherwise these sort of rough drafts of history go untold.
Well, and they kind of get screwed under the rug sometimes. Would you say that is the case?
Absolutely, and that is a problem and a big debate for the longest time in the media landscape. Has been how much do we care about foreign news, world stories. I think there's sort of this sort of stereotypical idea that maybe a lot of Americans don't care about world news or they don't want to read world news. But I just found that to not be the case. If you present a compelling story and you push an outlet or whoever it is enough to present it in front of people so it's there in front of their eyes, people will read it and they will care. And I've been blown away by often the feedback and support that people have had for a lot of different communities that I've covered around the world. So I really think news outlets should give more credit to the American people and to really value the news that I know people care about. It just needs to be presented to them.
Well, again, when I see the faces, I'm not going to lie. The moment your name was mentioned and I looked up the story and I saw the little faces and I said, oh my goodness, these little faces, through the thick of it all, were willing to pose for a picture and to band together as I believe as friends, first and foremost, not thinking about color, not thinking about ethnicity, not thinking about whatever is, on our skin, but they're just looking at the human soul. And do you feel that way when you visit with these young youth that really didn't ask to go to war and under others that are losing their limbs and or come out of this? I almost feel like, wow, what's wrong with us? How far have we either gone down the hill or, and what needs to be done next?
Right. Yeah, definitely sharing it. And I love every moment that I get to spend with them, but it's definitely, again, I try to be as strong as I can with them. And then coming away from it, it's a lot to sort of decompress about. But who am I to sort of be upset and complain when they're so strong in front of me? But it's just brutal to think that these young children, sometimes often just babies, and their lives are just sort of destroyed in that instant. And for what? And for what reason? And to know that the perpetrator, nothing will ever happen to them. And in the case of Syria, Bashar is still in power and will probably retain power. And yet, it's Syrian bombs that are doing this to these children. So that is a really difficult one for me to stomach. There's no real, the answer of what to do is really a difficult one, because I think when it comes to war, there's never good answers in terms of the U.S. We can go in and stay in forever like Afghanistan, and it's still not a great outcome. We can go in and come out like in Libya, still not a great outcome. Or we can do nothing at all, like Syria, still not a great outcome. So anytime there is a war, the outcomes, you've got to pick the least of the evils, I guess. So really the focus needs to be on prevention. And often we see these things burbling, or there is a failure to kind of crack down right when they begin, and they end up just taking lives of their own. So for me, the focus in the international community, in the US, in the UN, and all these other parties really needs to revert from trying to mitigate a situation instead to trying to prevent a situation before it becomes this sort of full-blown conflict.
Well, I go back to, certain presidents that are always very proactive at diplomatic approaches, right? Because I feel that some really need to share their experience of going in, in order to A, prevent, and then B, to rescue and or help, right? Quick statement by a couple of the people watching in social media. TCOJCWR broadcast says, I knew read for me. I will look and buy her book. It says, yeah, it breaks my heart. My dad used to watch us sleep and cry and thank God we are safe and well. I do the same with my children. Then Jesse, you had a statement, right, Jesse?
Did I? Oh, about the beheading thing that you mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I would have been, if I see something like this, I don't think I would have been able to sit still, because it's hard for me to perceive some actions like this happening. So it's really difficult. So it's just like when I read things like this, it's like, how do people act like this? It's really difficult for me.
Yeah, it is difficult. And to add on to that, just to kind of give you a bit more of an idea of the complexity of the problem in Iraq. So a lot of the young Yazidi boys were also kidnapped by ISIS when they came in and indoctrinated and brainwashed to to be child soldiers and sort of told they weren't Yazidi anymore and they had to convert and a lot of these things. And so when a lot of the boys were rescued years later or months later and brought back to their families, of course, there isn't really any professional resources to help them. So they're generally just going back into a displacement camp with whoever's left of their families. Often their fathers and sisters are all missing. But there was one case where a young boy, he was about 6 years old, at a camp tried to behead his baby sister. So you can imagine sort of the terror and how distraught the mother was, obviously trying to save her daughter, and then at the same time, this is her 6-year-old son, and what has happened to him, and how can she feel safe around him, and yet this is the child she loves. So it's extremely heart-wrenching, and to think there isn't enough sort of help to even help that little boy kind of psychologically deal with and bring him back to his family. And so it's an awful, unfathomable kind of scenario.
Well, on social media, Nikki says all his experiences so raw and emotionally charged. TCO JCWBR broadcast says, I had a driver Uber yesterday. He was 29, lived through 3 wars in Iraq. He said he'd seen so too as a child and was so happy to be in Canada. That's one of our listeners there. Obviously, look, at the end of the day, you I think a lot of people need to thank the lucky stars are here. Fact. However, you got to remember, and I always say this, we're interconnected on this world together. And sometimes people think it doesn't really, they kind of live in a bubble. How do you help people get out of that bubble? Obviously, this book is a good one to have in order to do that. Is there a particular chapter that you recommend?
I think they're sort of written in memos, so there's certain things that will speak to you more than others, and there's a lot of military components in there, but I really wrote the book for the human stories. There's a couple, I think, in there, obviously, I hesitant to say a particular one, but if you want to kind of, I guess, get a sense of that really raw thing that we were talking about earlier in terms of the mass graves and these children observing and the incredible volunteer work at the same time that these people give up their day jobs to go and give some dignity to the dead. And that is the last chapter in the book, Only Cry for the Living. So I would sort of recommend definitely get to the end if you can, because that will kind of give you an idea of where things stand and also where things are going. And this sort of idea, I guess, where the war was technically over, but did it really feel like it was over? And there's this lingering sensibility of what is next. And if you look just to Iraq, you have militias and you have all these different people that are now competing for power. And so it's kind of this exhausting idea of when does it really end and whose responsibility is it to end and what are the Iraqi people going to do about it? So I think they're the sort of the questions I like to pose as well.
Well, it is, again, the book Only Cry for the Living, Memos from Inside ISIS Battle. Look, at the end of the day, I got to say, we sometimes say, say a prayer for those that are least fortunate. The victims, I'm just going to say the victims of war, either those that lose their lives and or go to war in order to defend what they feel is right. On the opposite end, can you just kind of help me kind of put some perspective in what is in that mindset of the ISIS campaign?
Do you mean the fighters themselves?
Mm-hmm.
It really varies. But in my experience, what I found, and I think often in news here, we want to paint it as a black and white picture, and we often point to religious extremism as a driving factor. And really, in my experience, what I found was that it was a factor, sure, but it wasn't the factor. And there were many more socioeconomic factors. There was a pure idea of survival. So if this group comes into your village and takes it over, and you're working as a street cleaner, and they say, well, now you're working for us because we're controlling this village, and you have to make ends meet and feed your family at home, what sort of recourse do you have? You can run away and live at a refugee camp and still not make any money, or you can kind of just stay there and try to survive. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about, the reasons why people ended up pledging their allegiance and sort of staying there. And a lot of it had to do with pure situational survival. And I think those sort of nuances of the debate tend to get overlooked in the media narrative.
Well, there it is. Only Crime for the Living. Again, Holly McKay, thank you for spending time with us. We'll definitely give it a new read. Again, available on Amazon. Where do we follow you on social media?
So on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Holly, HOLLIES, Sam, MCKAY.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly, for spending your time with us. And thank you for spending so much of your time with the burn victims. I could tell you definitely make a lot of, you bring a lot of light and love into their life. So keep it up.
Thank you. I just love them to bits.
Yeah, I could tell. All right, people, we got to make a quick little break. We'll be right back right after these messages with more. Stay tuned.
KMET AM 1490 presents Beaumont High School football. This Saturday night, March 20th at 5 p.m., Beaumont meets Redlands in a Citrus Belt League game. Live from Dodge Stadium in Redland. I'm Mitch McClellan. Join Brett Malik, Scott Reed, and me as the Cougars meet the Terriers. Beaumont football broadcasts are sponsored by Del Taco Beaumont, Top Line Industrial Supply, Little & Sons Insurance Services, Supreme Auto, the Sandtrap Sports Bar and Grill, Donut Delight, Cherry Valley Nursery and Landscape Supply, CalStar Mobile Home Construction, Truckworks, La Michoacana, Ziggy's Spirit Shop, Scott's Headers and Mufflers, Pericone Juices, Ramona's Mexican Restaurant, and Class Axe Auto Body. That's Beaumont High School football action Saturday night at 4:45 for the pregame show, live from Redlands on your home for Cougar football, KMET AM 1490.
Are you a self-published author that maybe underestimated the challenges of marketing your own book? I'm Suzanne Lynn, and we help authors sell more books through video interviews and radio advertising. You see, a professional video interview is really an author's secret weapon for marketing because it makes an emotional connection with your reader that can be posted to social media, YouTube, your book's landing page and website, your Amazon author page, and even sent to media to request interviews. We guarantee that video interview will be viewed by a minimum of 3,000 people in your target audience. And let's face it, no one can sell your book better than you speaking about it yourself. Plus, we can run commercials on our nationwide network of radio stations that targets your specific reading audience. Find out more at GiveMyBookWings.com. That's GiveMyBookWings.com. Again, GiveMyBookWings.com.
Welcome back. Yes, it is the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. However you're tuning in, we support and want to say thank you to those that are bringing out this type of information. Again, pretty impactful interview. What do you think, Jesse?
Oh yeah, a great interview. I loved it. And that was just like, as she was talking, I'm just like, I was kind of like gasping. So I'm kind of like glad no one could see me. A tear came from my eye while she was talking, because it was just like, it's heartbreaking every time you hear a child dies and stuff like that. So, but you know what? I am glad I listened to it, because if I don't, I won't know of stuff like this happening, and my world bubble doesn't grow.
I'm glad you said that, actually. The world bubble doesn't grow. Only Cry for the Living, again, memos from inside the ISIS battlefield, and it truly is one. And again, I'm just bringing up the children, not to bring, I just think like bringing awareness. I'm not sure if this is featured in the book, but I just want to highlight again what I feel is something that she does, and she does it so well because, she really lives the telling of the tale of these youth that we need to remember. We need to pray for these young kids, and we need to remember, again, war does not end very nicely. It's very destructive. And we need to be, we need to figure our stuff out. Come on, people. Are we that dumb still? All right, let's be smart about it. Make it a great day. Whatever you do, remember life is worth living. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Well, actually, yeah, Monday. Bye-bye, everyone. All right, people, I'm out of time. Make it a great day. Whatever you do, remember life is worth living. So live it well. Bye.